Now, this video, in all honesty, should not even kind of act as or be a surprise. But again, it's good to refresh everyone's memory about economic collapse, what can happen, things to pay attention to, which is why I'm gladly going to do this video for you from silverdoctors.com. Debt super cycle will destroy standard of living overnight, leave society gasping and stupefied. Stupefied. I like that word. By Tom Chatham, Project Chesapeake, via the other side I just talked about, shtfplan.com. And he says, and he just adds an editor's comment first, which I thought was worthy of reading for sure. The reality is sad, but the population is not prepared to face the great crisis at hand, overnight and with the heavy force of a tidal wave. The greatness and the normalcy of not having to struggle to meet basic needs, the standard of living that prosperous Americans have known all their lives, is on the cusp of utter destruction. The social services and pensions are being deliberately abused, pressured, traded, undermined, looted from, and neglected, only to accumulate impossible shortfalls in funding. The financial security for retirement and for those not working or depending upon benefits is all prone to be deleted. What would happen if the Great Depression returned? Americans were once rural, rugged, and dignified. Today, they are urban, delicate, and debased, not to mention ignorant and dumbed down. Who among us is prepared to survive a true long-term collapse? Fewer than you'd think. How will you cope with a lower standard of living? Keeping in mind now, Lindsey Williams said Americans will be experiencing not a small change in the standard of living, but a large change in the American standards of living. When he said this, he was told this by his elite friend. I'm not talking about recently. He said this a while back, and his elite friend told him, when we pull the plug on the economy, it's going to be it's going to be worldwide, but it's going to absolutely affect America too. When we pull that plug, everybody's lifestyle is going down the tubes in America. Of course, across the world, but in America, you're going to experience it the most because you've had the loveliest lifestyle of all the world. So it's going to hurt a little bit more here. And he said after some time, you will get some of what you had back, some of that dream back, but you will never go back to it will never go back to what it was. Those were his words. Now, naturally, there's going to be exceptions to the rule. Someone's going to be prosperous. They're going to be profitable. They're going to have a company that does well, whatever it is. I'm talking about the average, normal, whatever American person, and not just average. It's going to be most people. Average would be about, half the people. No, this would be most people. The very well off probably won't even be affected by this. The 1%ers, absolutely not. The 10%ers, some will. Because some are going to lose their fortunes overnight. Just like that one, I don't know if he was a billionaire or, the guy made hundreds of millions, but he had a massive house, super, super big shot. He was the king of, what do they call that? Timeshares. And I remember reading this not that long ago. And they were on the brink of bankruptcy. That whole market had crashed. It collapsed. Again, they were ready to sell everything off. They were in trouble. And then all of a sudden, it started to rebound a little bit. And then it was actually okay. Then there's more people. Okay. In other words, the sheep said, okay, I guess nothing's going to crash at all. I'm going to go back to my reckless spending and nonsense, which brought him back out. He's here to say, hey, I was close, but we're back to where we were. I would have seen that as a sign and said, let me go ahead and tone down my lifestyle by this much. This multi-hundred million, whatever, $1 million house, get rid of that damn thing. Honey, it's just me and you. Just us two. We don't need to live in a $100 million house. Let's tone down. Let's get a $2 million house. You're still a big shot in a $2 million house. Unless you're being scammed by the Chinese and they're paying $2 million for houses that are worth like $200,000. In that case, that's a little different. So how will you cope with a lower standard of living? Tom Chatham. The forces are mounting that will eventually overwhelm most Americans and send their standard of living to unknown depths. Americans that have only known the post-World War II prosperity are ill-equipped and educated to deal with depression-level living. Easy credit and instant gratification have created a nation of whining, self-absorbed, entitlement-minded people with no moral or mental toughness. Tom, I could not have even tried in any way to make a better statement than that. You just nailed it. Doug Casey believes we are headed for what he calls a super depression created by the ending of a debt super cycle. The bigger the debt cycle, the bigger the depression that follows. That's how reality works, and most people are not prepared for reality. When this depression, which has already started, gets momentum, let me stop. I just did the video that showed, and the government, not me, the government says we are revising our GDP outlook that we've already given you stats on. For the last freaking 11 years, we're revising it down significantly. So a revision essentially comes in when different data comes in later, after you already spoken and given out, oh, this is how things look. Oh, wait, we got some new data that actually says that's false. My question is, if you can say something at this point in time, you have data right then and there that speaks about this. You can't tell me that for the last 11 years, you haven't even revised it. It's been fun. You've just let it go. And now 11 years later, you're saying we're going to go back 11 years in total, 2005. In every single year, practically, we, according to our new data, says that it sucked the whole time. Oh, so you got new data 11 years later. 11 years later to revise 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 data. Gotcha. Okay, I see how that works. So when I tell you that everything, government, finance, banks, are all cooking their financial books. Well, that J.P. Morgan's the largest bank by assets in the U.S. When you hear that, you should run. Bank of America's got more account holders. You should run. Because they're all cooking the books. All of them. So when this depression, which has already started, gains momentum, it will overwhelm the plans of a society that is expecting to get things like Social Security, pensions, and payouts from retirement plans they have paid into for many years. All of those things will disappear almost overnight and leave society gasping and stupefied over what to do. Their reactions will be to yell and scream and try to identify who to blame. But the only person they should blame is the one in the mirror. Tom Chatham. I know there's some people out there that I would agree with that statement is for them. But you can't really say that generally, this blanket statement about everybody's up, look at yourself in the mirror, you caused this. No, because we tried the voting thing, we tried the Democrat thing, we tried the Republican thing, the liberal thing, the constitutional thing. Nothing seems to have worked. They all get in there, they lie. They make it sound good. If you vote for me, I'm going to make these great changes. We vote for them, they don't do anything. So you can't really blame a person for doing that. However, you can blame a person who, when presented with information to make them make an informed decision on voting or anything for that matter, and they say, I don't have time for this, or I don't believe in that, then in that case, Tom, you're right. And there's a whole lot of people like that. So in some respects, old Tom, I have to agree with that. But not everybody. Many very smart people have raised the alarm and done their best to warn the sleeping public. I'm proud to say that I'm one of those. Thank you very much. But those slumbering masses have ignored the warnings and hit the snooze button one more time. The masses do not understand economics, do not want to understand economics, and they will pay dearly for that ignorance in the coming days. When the real unemployment rate becomes common knowledge as it increases substantially, people will be left to survive on what resources they have saved up outside the banking system and cannot be stolen by the politicians and bankers. That is a key point here. The assets you have outside the system that cannot be stolen from you with a few strokes of keystrokes on some computer somewhere. Those hoping for some miraculous event that will send the U.S. back to the days of manufacturing might and jobs for all will never see it happen. Those days are gone. The West line theory tells us our economy will slow down and become more modest as the shipping center of the world moves west to the next powerhouse region, which is Asia. And more importantly, or specifically, China. This is what history teaches us. Not only is it history, it's happening now. How many times have I come out here to tell you, oh, China's doing this that we used to do, and they're getting ready to take over. Oh, China has an exchange now. Oh, China just bought a new gold vault. Oh, China did this. They're getting ready to take over completely. When people suddenly wake up one morning and they have no job, their retirement is gone, and they need to care for their family, what will they do? When government services have collapsed and they suddenly realize they are now living in a third world country with few government services, what will they do? When the banks are closed and only a select few connected people have any type of money or access to goods, what will they do? And on that statement, a few days ago I read in Venezuela, which I haven't talked about in a little while, which is in utter civil war collapse mode, there was one area where it cost $100,000 to be a member of this country club, where it was booming. Life was great. Cocktails for everyone. Fantastic. That would be what this last sentence was. When the banks are closed and only a select few connected people have any type of money or access to goods, what will they do? This is the reality that many people will face in the future, and they have no idea how bad it can get. And I'll say right now, if you don't, just search YouTube for Venezuela collapse, Venezuela civil unrest, Venezuela food shortages, and you can spend plenty of time on there seeing live video. Well, it was live when it happened, video of just what such a thing looks like, and it is not pretty. They refuse to contemplate the harsh reality they will be living in and take steps to mitigate the effects. What OJ Step 4 does on here is everything that I talk about, telling you to get food storage, silver, precious metals, etc., is so that you can do exactly what that last few words were. Mitigate the effects. You won't be immune. I don't think any of us will be immune. But you can mitigate the effects. Oh, I've had some silver stashed. I can sell that, and my pain and suffering is not nearly as bad as so-and-so or this guy or that guy next to me. When people, to do so let me back up one sentence. They refuse to contemplate the harsh reality they will be living in and take steps to mitigate the effects. To do so would be to acknowledge it could happen, and they are taking personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is a dirty phrase in today's entitlement society. To see some of the effects, one has to look at the collapse of society in Venezuela today to see what awaits, which is what I talked about. When it happens, it will all fall back to you to take responsibility for your family and take care of them for the duration. And none of us, including myself, has any idea what the duration might even be. If it's anything like Venezuela, it's already too long. And they got ways to go. To do that, you need a plan now for that eventuality and build up your resources that you will need to provide food, shelter, clothing, and security when the system fails to do it for you. You need to be Noah on his ark, not the people watching as he floated away. And there's going to be a whole bunch of people watching as some people float away. Having resources stored up is a must, but it may not get you all the way through if the situation lasts for many years. That is why you need some type of plan to replace those resources as time goes by and have some way to generate some type of income or at least items to trade. Usable goods are for the short term, and things like gold, silver, and production equipment are for the long term to help you get through the crisis with the least amount of pain. Even with proper planning, the days ahead will not be easy, as the standard of living society will fall substantially to levels only seen in failed third world countries or old pictures. The assets actually owned by the people today is very small compared to how they live. They will default on their home loan, their car loan, and their credit debt, leaving them with very few real possessions and few ways to move what they have left, even if they have someplace to go to. Ultimately, these people will become the new serfs to the wealthy class that will take possession of anything of value. Feudalism will once again rule. The lack of planning by society will make this a reality if it is allowed. What will you do when everything you have worked a lifetime for is suddenly taken away? Do you have a plan to keep what you have? Do you have a plan to make money when you cannot find a job? Do you have a way to take care of your family until things stabilize? Do you have a home you will not lose if this whole system breaks down? What will you do if electricity or fuel is too expensive to buy or not available to the general population by chance? And funny enough, the Webbot talked about just such a thing occurring, that they'll say we need the electricity for this important building over here. Not you guys. That was in a Webbot report recently. These are the questions you should ask yourself now, and you better have a good answer because your family will be asking them when the Greater Depression sets in. This article was written by Tom Chatham and originally published at his site, projectchesapeake.wordpress.com. Again, I'm like just about almost 100% in agreement with this. The only thing I wasn't was what I talked about slightly. Can't just blanket statement everyone made, look at yourself, you're responsible. Well, not for what has happened and is coming. But again, the hand-me-out state, entitlement state, try to wake some of these people up, then, well, it'll never happen here, Okay, all right. But as soon as it does, they're going to go instantly to the person that they knew, posted that little thing on Facebook. They were warning us a while back to, that person's got stuff. I need to all of a sudden be really friendly with them. And unfortunately, for my sorry butt, that would be me. Because there's a whole lot of people who know about the stuff I talk about in videos and stuff that I do. And I'm going to have to break some people's hearts. I'm talking like close friends, family. When they come to me, help me, help us. Okay, I'm willing to help. What do you have that'll make this situation any better for us as a whole? Did you stock up any good amount of food? No. Did you buy any precious metals? No. And I've been telling you for years to buy them, right? Yeah. And I've been telling you for years to get a food storage, right? Yeah. Didn't do any of those? No. I gotta say, if I take you in, or I come to you and we live there, whatever, I'm now gonna dwindle on my supplies, keeping you guys around. Now you've made a big burden on my shoulders that I tried to tell you about in advance. And the fact that I actually wasted my time telling you and you didn't do it, I'm better off finding someone down the street right now to just randomly say, hey, do you want to come live with us for a little while? Because at least I didn't tell them in advance, and they pretty much looked at me like I was crazy and said, no, that's stupid. Like you did. Yeah. Hopefully that's almost a Mad Max scenario, by the way. Let's just hope it doesn't get that bad. But if I'm to believe anything John Teeter said, it's going to get that bad. If I'm to believe some of the Webbot forecasts, which it does have a good track record, by the way, then that's to be believable. I hope everybody's prepared.